Hello. So today, what I'd like to do, hopefully once and for all, and save myself a lot of time in the future, is to offer a debunk of pretty much anything within the crypto that falls under the crypto umbrella that isn't Bitcoin proper. And I'll start by saying that I'm in this space because of a love and a passion and an attraction to the freedom and um, the primarily, just the freedom that Bitcoin offers to us, to anyone that wants to be a part of this system, because anyone can be, and once you're in it, no one can control your financial decisions. No one can rob you through stealthy taxes like inflation, and your monetary business becomes entirely your own responsibility, but you get complete freedom within that. And that's such a worthwhile trade, and it's not one that's ever offered in any other context. And understanding what makes Bitcoin as amazing as it is hard to do, especially given the price rises, because the price flying up can be an exciting thing, but if you don't understand what the technology is at heart, it's easy to get distracted and think anything else that comes along that's also a cryptocurrency might do exactly the same thing. And that's not the case, because Bitcoin has some essentially magical properties that are impossible to replicate. And it's its own black hole, and it's always described as a financial black hole that just swallows everything else up in its path. And what you get with technologies like that is you don't get fragmentation, you get a coagulation. And it's like the internet itself. You don't have people forking off and making their own incompatible protocols that are different internets, because there's no point. What serves people is to take part in the global system and to build the network itself when they participate in it. And that's the network itself. That's the network effect. And this is part of what creates an ecosystem that has achieved a certain critical mass whereby it can resist every single kind of attack that might come its way in a reliable manner. And copying the technology it uses without achieving the scale of what Bitcoin has achieved means most of the time what you offer is worse than what was already offered before Bitcoin. Indeed, Bitcoin is often described by my clients when I ask them what they know about Bitcoin as being the first cryptocurrency, and everything else apparently seems to be an improvement upon what they are often told is the MySpace of cryptocurrencies, i.e. Bitcoin. In reality, it's the opposite. There were so many attempts at making a native currency for the internet before Bitcoin, every single one of which had some sort of form of central control that was reminiscent of a bank, because no one figured out how to do this thing without having a central point of failure, until Bitcoin, which combined various technologies of the past and Adam Back's proof of work, and into making a system where no one had direct control over it. And as a result of its success, there was a spawning off and an industry of shitcoins and complete scams that enjoy the association they get by being under the same umbrella, the term cryptocurrency, as Bitcoin, when they share none of the qualities of decentralization and resilience and censorship resilience. They share none of those qualities, but people that don't understand the nuances of why Bitcoin is the way it is and why nothing else is that way are duped into thinking that they are the same thing, when in reality they are not. And the focus of this video is going to be the king of those shitcoins and scams, Ethereum. And I have spent years talking about why Ethereum is the absolute epitome of the archetype the emperor has no clothes. There is no project that makes more spurious and specious claims than this. And even I would like to debunk it on two levels. The first level being a practical and simple to understand level, which should make you dismiss it as something you might invest in. And when I say invest, I mean primarily with money, But there is also the investment that can be made writing smart contracts, or the investment of your time in understanding the technology itself, or even with your pure mind share. None of these are worthwhile investments into Ethereum. And the second debunking that I'd like to do would be on a more technical level, which should seal the deal, I hope, and put a stop to this, at least with regards to my clients that want to watch this video, and hopefully serve to save me some time writing endless emails about why this project is a complete farce and not something to be taken seriously, and something that is interesting from certain perspectives, but not something that deserves any of your money, at least. So the practical way in which I'll attack, or I say attack, and I'm sorry for the unpleasantness of this video. Like I say, what brought me into this space was the love and the passion for Bitcoin and the freedom it offers, and it's an exhausting and unpleasant process debunking scams. It's as fun as standing outside a casino trying to convince people that they're more likely to lose money than they are to win money on their way in. It's not something I do. It's a very thankless task, and most likely, even when I do prevent people from investing money into scams, they very rarely say thank you. It tends to be a very unrewarding job. So I'm hoping that I can get all my thoughts out in this video and not have to revisit this too much. So the practical level in which it makes no sense to invest in Ethereum is that it is a utility token. It doesn't share the property that Bitcoin has of primarily decentralization, but specifically deflation. Bitcoin has a predictable monetary future, which is fundamentally deflationary. And that's the first time we've had something like that. And that is why it makes sense as an investment, because predictably there are going to be fewer and fewer of them, and there's going to be more and more demand for them, especially as we're at the early stages and the world is just figuring out that this is a fundamentally hard limit to the supply with this technology. Ethereum isn't that. Ethereum has a fluid monetary policy that can somewhat be changed at the whim of various influential figures within their community. This is not really possible in Bitcoin, and while it's not completely impossible, it is so unlikely that the community would band together and decide collectively that there should be more Bitcoin and we want to make all of our savings worth less. The likelihood of the entire Bitcoin community deciding to make their savings worth less is reliably small enough that you don't need to worry about it happening. However, in Ethereum, you're relying on other people not making that decision, a very small group of other people. That's not a good thing, and that is reminiscent of central banks and politicians who continually make the decision to do that. And inflation is, of course, the stealthiest of taxes, and it's something people are used to and they're told is necessary, but it's not a pleasant thing. So to get back to the practical level on which I would recommend people listen to before anything else, Ethereum doesn't do what Bitcoin does, and it doesn't even claim to. It is not a deflationary currency. The Ether token that runs on the Ethereum network is a utility token. It's not a store of value. Utility tokens granting Ethereum all of the goodwill in the world here, and allowing all of the claims they've made to be true without me questioning them, it still doesn't make sense to invest in it as a store of value, because utility tokens are akin to what you might make use of on a vacation to Mexico or some other country, where at the airport, when you land and you make your way into the country, you stop just before you get out the airport and you buy a bunch of Mexican pesos or whatever the local currency is, because they will be useful to you in the short term. You'll go somewhere that doesn't have a credit card, for example, has no credit card facility, and you need a few pesos. But you don't buy 100,000 of those pesos, because you don't want to be left with any at the end of your holiday unless you know you're coming back soon, because they have a limited use for you, and one of those uses is not savings. You don't buy a bunch of Mexican pesos and think, I'm going to hold on to these for 10 years because they're going to be worth more in the future. You wouldn't do that with any fiat currency. You don't even do that with the US dollar, because the US dollar is widely understood to be inflationary as well. And anyone in your family with any financial literacy at all will sit you down one day when you start to have a bit of a savings account, and you turn from being a teenager into an adult, and you're starting to get a bit of finance together. They'll sit you down and tell you, look, you should invest in this, invest in that, you should. And everyone's dream is to one day own some real estate and get on that ladder, because everyone understands that just having money and leaving it in a bank is a good way to lose value over time, not gain it. And real estate works the opposite way, because it's fundamentally scarce and limited. So when it comes to utility tokens, like, well, to be honest, fiat currencies like the dollar and the peso and Ethereum tokens, if I will grant Ethereum every benefit of the doubt and say that those smart contracts aren't just scams, and the network is reliable and it's not held together with duct tape, if I grant it all of that, nonetheless, there is no point buying and holding on to Ether tokens. The only function of them is, if you want to run or interact with a smart contract on the Ethereum network, buy the Ether tokens when you need to do that and use them as you need. That's it. You don't need to buy them for no reason or for speculative value. These things aren't going anywhere. They'll be around for a while, and you can buy and use them as you need. Now, that is ridiculously generous, because the actual function of these things is only and purely and solely to facilitate scams and to make a select group of influential people within crypto ecosystem very rich, who have cynically designed a system as morally bankrupt, as in the most morally bankrupt fashion possible, in order to line their own pockets and take advantage of people who are intimidated by techno babble, who like to feel stupefied by techno whiz kids who run rings around them with terminology and just complete stuff. I mean, that it makes people overwhelmed with imposter syndrome and somehow very, very nervous, but very, very willing to throw pockets and pockets of cash at these complete frauds and just, for want of a better word, scumbags. And I don't know exactly how to break this down, but on a practical level, if we can just lay it to rest there, you don't buy utility tokens that have no obvious monetary policy, that even if they did have a monetary policy, could be changed at the behest of a small group of people, because that is literally identical to buying foreign currency for some backwater third world country that might tomorrow inflate the hell out of its currency to the point where the purchasing power halves every 2 weeks. That doesn't make any sense as an investment or a store of value whatsoever. And I would much rather you bought some South American hyperinflating currency than you did Ethereum, because frankly, Ethereum is worse for a lot of reasons than that. It's got a lot of shiny technology going on with it. It's a blockchain, and it rubs shoulders with Bitcoin, and people unfortunately, some of Bitcoin's glory rubs off on Ethereum, and it's given a lot of credibility that it doesn't deserve, and that, frankly, is quite disgusting to see, because Bitcoin actually suffers some of the wrath and the ire of various regulatory bodies due to the sheer amount of scamming that happens on Ethereum. And while Bitcoin has facilitated some illicit activity, Ethereum doesn't do anything but create facilities for complete scams and complete cons, and it's never done anything but that. And I may lack the imagination to understand what the purpose of a smart contracting platform is, but I've never found one that isn't just moving money from stupid and gullible people, or who are otherwise maybe very intelligent in their own fields but are a bit baffled by the crypto space, into the pockets of creators of these scams and people like Vitalik Buterin, who endorse them and provide a platform for them, and are in on things from the ground level and can have the foresight to be able to time the market. And in any other field, this is insider trading, and this is highly illegal. But in the crypto space, it's a bit of a wild, wild west, and they can get away with things that just normally wouldn't be acceptable and are quite understandably illegal. So the practical level in which Ethereum makes no sense to invest in, hopefully is pretty well covered by what I was saying. But the technical level in which Ethereum is a complete joke is a little harder to explain, because it requires what I would usually compare it to is Bitcoin. Bitcoin has its blockchain, and its blockchain is an essentially tamper-proof ledger that can only be appended. It can't really be amended. None of the information that exists prior to the last block or 2 or 3 can ever be considered something that could ever be changed or mutated. So if I sent you some Bitcoins 5 blocks ago, you can rely on the fact that me wanting to change the information in that block requires me outmining the rest of the entire Bitcoin network by equaling the entire power of the rest of the Bitcoin network, and then having slightly more, and outmining the entire network. And first off, the reason you can rely on this attack not ever taking place is because if I had that much computing power at my hands, and it was specifically designed computational resources that could do one thing, which is mine Bitcoin, it would cost me billions and billions of dollars to have that. And if I would use that power and all that resources to attack Bitcoin, I've just made all my hardware able to mine a coin whose value would have just plummeted through the floor. And my own financial interest would have been something I've just worked incredibly hard against. So that is one of the game theoretical elements of Bitcoin, which keeps the network reliable, in that people who contribute hash power to the blockchain, to the mining process rather, are financially incentivized to throw straight dice every time and not screw around. In reality, they're just one part of the security of Bitcoin. There's also a vast network of people running nodes that verify all the blocks the miners mine. So if the miners ever do anything funny, the nodes are the people that reject their blocks. And if you're a miner and you have your block rejected, you just lost a lot of money. You just lost the potential to gain a lot of Bitcoin, and you just spent a lot on electricity too. So again, you're incentivized to be very, very honest and very, very predictable. This is another great thing. And the more the hash rate goes up and the more the price goes up, the more the system self-reinforces and becomes more reliable, and the more the system holds itself together like glue, and the more it coagulates and combines with other elements of the financial world and slowly swallows them all up. But there is one thing to point out when it comes to attacks for a system like Bitcoin. Social attacks are a very worrying factor. And if there are very, very powerful, influential people within a system, even if they're decentralized, they can change some of the ways in which the system works. And Bitcoin was deliberately designed in such a way as to mitigate that attack, by which I mean to say, the creator, Satoshi, deliberately remained anonymous and quit the minute the thing gained any traction. He either died or he rejoined the community as a different person that's working on Bitcoin still to this day, but just as someone we know as someone else. And he managed to do so. Being anonymous online and doing something like create Bitcoin requires an incredible amount of foresight and ingenuity and discipline. And this was never ever compromised, because to this day no one knows who this man is, or even if he is a man or a woman or a group of people. But most likely it is just one person, because the more people you have, the harder it is to keep a secret. And it's not inconceivable that the code could have been written by one person at all. So if Satoshi was a known person, with the religious level of reverence that is afforded to him, then he would be an incredibly dangerous attack vector for Bitcoin, because anyone that wanted to destroy the system could find him personally and threaten him, and threaten anything important to him if he has a family, and say, I want you to propose a change to the Bitcoin protocol that will degrade the network significantly. And just due to the status he has within the community, that would gain a lot of traction, and it would be a very difficult attack to prevent. So, for example, in my last video, I talked about the fork wars. The fork wars was a situation where the network forked amongst itself. Primarily, the users all wanted to keep the blocks small, but actually all the big companies wanted blocks to be larger. And in the end, the community won, which was good. But there was always a scary scenario that I was worried about, which is Satoshi showing up and saying, look, blocks need to be this or that. And even if he'd come out on my side, and what I perceived to be the side of what was healthy for the network, even if he'd come out and said blocks need to be small, which is what I thought they needed to be, that would have set an awful precedent where this person, regardless of whether he was right or wrong, now has an incredible amount of influence over everything. And that means that creates a central point of weakness. And in Bitcoin, that doesn't exist, because he excused himself very early on and was never heard from again, and has deliberately burnt every single bridge back to his identity. The Satoshi at GMX email account he has since expired and been taken over by someone else. There have been fake postings on forums under his name. There have been, there are other examples, but the chances of him ever surfacing in a way that would be believable to anyone are so small that it basically we can rely on it not happening. If he didn't surface during the scaling debate, he won't surface for anything else. And it's very likely that he's dead. But if he's not, his discipline to hold on to over 1 million coins without selling any of them and risking his identity being exposed is godlike. And I don't mean to contribute to the worship and the creation of a hero and an idol when I say that, but the character really is that admirable. Now, Ethereum, on the other hand, did the opposite. It remains something where that attack vector is left wide open, because it's frankly something you can do when you don't have that kind of vision. A perfect example of this, and why it's so important to remove this central control and this immutability that Bitcoin has as a blockchain, is when we compare the reaction to disaster scenarios. So, when Bitcoin suffered at the behest of Mt. Gox, the biggest exchange at the time, back in 2011, 12, 13, something like 800,000 Bitcoins were lost. And I, to this day, don't really understand whether they were lost, as in they are gone and the private keys are irretrievable, or if they were lost to various hacks that were done on the exchange. But either way, people with money on that exchange were very angry and understandably wanted to mutate Bitcoin's blockchain to undo the hack and get their Bitcoins back. This never happened because Bitcoin's blockchain is genuinely immutable, and if something obviously illegal and immoral happens on top of Bitcoin's blockchain, Bitcoin doesn't care. Bitcoin is a neutral network that doesn't pass judgment on the nature of the transactions that happen on top of its network. That lack of a moral judgment is what happens when you have a system that you can rely upon to treat everyone equally, and that is how you get the freedom that Bitcoin offers. That is an essential characteristic of it, and it's why there is never a time when you go to make a Bitcoin transaction that someone says, hold on a minute, who are you sending money to? Why are you sending the money there? This is the system that banks offer us, and we hate it, and we have walked away from it, and we have walked into a world of freedom. What that means is that when your coins get stolen, there is no one you can turn to. But that at the same time means when you want to spend your coins on anything. And if you want to send $10 billion to someone, somewhere, at some time, there is not a force on earth that can stop you. That is what comes with genuine decentralization. And it meant that within the Bitcoin community, where the ideology of, fundamentally it's a libertarian ideology, runs very strong in combination with the cypherpunk ideology that spawned the technology in the first place, the essence of the cypherpunk technology being the use of math and cryptography to evade government surveillance and control. That is the life force of Bitcoin, and the essential thing to understand in order to benefit and coexist and to make use of this currency. That being the case, when these hacks occur and there is energy within the community saying, those were my coins, please can we just mutate the blockchain? Can we revert to 100 blocks ago before that hack happened? Because I want my coins back, and they are my coins, and everyone knows they're my coins. Bitcoin doesn't care about that, and there is very little energy in the community that you will find in support of your efforts to screw with Bitcoin's blockchain's immutability. That it never got off the ground as a movement. Give people the Mt. Gox coins back. Yeah, a lot of people wanted it. A lot of people lost a lot of Bitcoin and they were very upset. But Bitcoin don't care. And Bitcoin didn't revert to its previous state because there's no energy around that kind of moral correction in Bitcoin. That's not what the network is about. The network is about immutability and reliability and security. It's not about moving goalposts after the fact because some people are unhappy or irresponsible. It doesn't ever make up for people losing Bitcoins as a result of their bad luck or their irresponsibility. So that means you have to be so careful in the Bitcoin network. That's the price you pay for getting complete and final control over your own assets. So Mt. Gox collapsed. Mt. Gox lost lots of people's Bitcoins. Some people wanted to change Bitcoin to undo that. Bitcoin said no, because its community said, we don't do things like that. And there was no individual that said yes or no. It was the network itself as a result of the people that run it and verify what goes on. And in order to change it, you'd have had to hard fork Bitcoin and make your own version of Bitcoin where those coins went back to their rightful owners. But guess what? You're going to be on a minority fork with no hash power, with no users, and you're going to run something that looks like your own internet with no websites on it, with no content creation, with no infrastructure. It's a waste of time, and the native token on that blockchain will be worth very little, and you'll look something like Bitcoin Cash does today, worth barely 1% of what a Bitcoin is worth. Now, let's contrast this with Ethereum, a network where every single one of the principles that makes Bitcoin censorship resistant and reliable and predictable and immutable has been done away with completely due to disinterest and disregard for all of these wonderful principles that make Bitcoin so strong and resilient. What do we see in Ethereum? We see a very, very well-known, prominent creator with a huge amount of social influence who is not about to give up that one removed from being the dictator of the network entirely. What happened when they hit disaster? A smart contract was issued on the Ethereum blockchain called the DAO, the Decentralized Autonomous Operation or Organization. And it was the biggest crowdfund, I think, in the history of humanity. I think $350 million were raised in an hour of people buying up Ethereum tokens and trying to power this thing and give it life as a smart contract, which is, a DApp, a decentralized application, which means an application running on not a computer that can be shut down, but a cloud computer that is unable to be shut down by, speaking in a fanciful, with idealistic way here, giving all, benefit to the Bitcoin network, to the Ethereum network, and giving it the benefit of the doubt and saying it is what it claims to be, i.e. A world computer with no central point of failure. This decentralized autonomous organization was supposed to be running on top of the Ethereum network and would be unstoppable and, maybe would have been a good thing if Ethereum was genuinely that, and at the same time the the DAO had been written perfectly without any bugs, but we all know it's very hard to write software without bugs, and this is one of the challenges of writing smart contracts and putting them on the Ethereum network, is that if the Ethereum network was what it says it was, if there's any mistakes in that smart contract, there's no way of fixing them. So it turned out there was a pretty big fucking bug in the DAO, and someone hacked, I think, $150 million worth of it. And this was all in the space of a very short, within hours or days. And this Vitalik was, who is the creator of Ethereum, and a few of his buddies were very heavily invested in the DAO. And they used their influence within the ecosystem to shut down Ethereum, to flip the switch and turn it off temporarily. With the Vitalik's famous phrase was, "Okay, can you guys stop trading?" which he said to a couple of exchange operators, just to put the brakes on the network and say, "Stop, we're going to fix this." They did a hard fork. They created a new network that started again, not from the beginning of Ethereum, but rolled back a couple of days worth of blocks to before the smart contract was launched, with a fixed version, and maintained with this new fork of Ethereum a new network that would take the name Ethereum. And the old network, which continued on without hard forking, is now called Ethereum Classic. Ethereum Classic is where anyone with any integrity ended up, and it's a completely dead chain that gets 51% attacked so often that I've lost count of how much of a backwater and abandoned project it is, because no one in this, because fundamentally no one in the Ethereum ecosystem really cares about any of the properties that Bitcoin has, i.e. the decentralization and the censorship resistance. They were just happy to get their money back. There was very little energy in that community that said, hold on a minute, the smart contract is supposed to be running on the world computer, and the world computer is supposed to be running unstoppable code. And guess what? If you're true to that promise, when you upload unstoppable code to a world computer that can never be turned off, you're supposed to accept what that code says. You're not supposed to cast moral judgments on it and say, oh, it wasn't supposed to do that, let's just start again. Because if you're doing that, why aren't you just running the application on an Amazon web server? Why can't you just... The phrase in cloud computing is cloud storage is not magic. All you're doing is storing your photos on someone else's hard drive instead of your own. There's no magic to it. Now, of course, there are redundancies when it comes to like a professional storage service, rather than you just storing your iPhone backups on your own hard drive, of course. But the point is, there's no magic. You're just using someone else's storage and not your own. Ethereum is just you running applications on someone else's computer. And the claim is that the computer is a huge thing that exists as a sort of aggregate power that comes from the Ethereum network itself. But in reality, the resilience of that world computer that's supposed to be something that can't be shut down or stopped is that it's incredibly fragile, and it can be stopped at the behest of a few powerful people within that ecosystem. And as a result, all of the applications that run on top of Ethereum tend to just be bullshit and nonsense casino style stuff that serves to serve the creator of whoever wrote the smart contract and the people, the exchanges that they bribe into listing their token, and Vitalik and his buddies who are in on it from the beginning. And it turns out if you make a mistake in your smart contract, they will modify the behavior of the world computer, the unstoppable code running on the world computer. They will say, hold on, just stop, and revert to an earlier state and pretend your mistake never happened and literally rewrite history. And that creates an unequal playing ground where if you have influence in that ecosystem, you can make things do what you want. And this returns to everything that existed prior to Bitcoin when it comes to financial systems, and you get back to political influence and control and censorship and moral judgments and all of the shortcomings that come from the fact that no two people have the same understanding of what one person thinks something's theft, another person thinks something's completely fair. There's no agreement amongst any two people on our planet about what is moral and what isn't. That's why machines that we rely upon, we don't try and instill a morality into them, because no two people could ever agree on what that is. Instead, we just make it not have any judgment in it at all. Bitcoin is an incredibly dumb system that doesn't understand the difference between sending billions of dollars and sending fractions of a penny. It doesn't understand the difference between a group of people buying or an individual buying. It doesn't understand the difference between genders and races and age. It doesn't understand any of that stuff because it's been made in a deliberately simple manner. Ethereum is the opposite again. Everything is unbelievably complex, and it's a Ruby Goldberg machine of just, once you go down that rabbit hole, you get lost with, there's the phrase, we spent so long working out the how that we forgot to ask why. And I have yet to think of a single compelling reason why you would need to run a smart contract on the Ethereum network. Because everything that exists on there can exist in a centralized capacity that doesn't need to have the pretense of decentralization. It can exist perfectly well in a centralized capacity. And nearly all of the smart contracts that do run on the Ethereum network are centralized anyway. And while Ethereum itself is also centralized, it sadly has to, because of the proximity it shares to Bitcoin, people make some of these assumptions, and I'm left quite perplexed at the fact that people are still throwing money at this thing without understanding what it is, or without ever being able to tell me, or without me, in all my honest attempts, being able to figure out a legitimate purpose for this thing. And I've often said this to people that I onboard into Bitcoin, which is that I prefer the people that write off the entire crypto space as a scam, than I do to people that come in via Bitcoin and then lose all their money in shitcoins because they don't understand that, because they're just too open-minded, and they don't understand that when there's money involved, people are trying to stick a vacuum cleaner hose into your pocket the minute you walk into the crypto door. And I would much rather people maintain a cynical and skeptical attitude than accept everything. But the reality is, Bitcoin is it's a critical mass it's achieved, and it's a solar system now, and everything is collapsing in towards Bitcoin in the financial world. And we're at a point now in 2020 where every billionaire is suddenly obsessed with it, and every hedge fund has been working for months to try and figure out how to reallocate funds, and the price just, every individual is hoping for a drop, and every institution isn't, because it takes a while to move. It's like trying to turn around an oil tanker as opposed to a sailboat. It takes a long time to do it, and a lot of planning, and you can't do things quickly. So these large amounts of money, they're all ending up in Bitcoin, and they are buying and they are buying and they are holding, and they are not planning on selling, and they are not weak hands. And all that is to say, Bitcoin's time has come, and it's not something that anyone that does proper research needs to go any further. Or I have not seen a single one of these Michael Saylor type people who are serious about their money, who are serious about the research they put into, ever consider Ethereum or Link or Litecoin or Tron or EOS or Bcash or Bitcoin SV or Bitcoin Gold or Bitcoin Diamond or Bitcoin X or any of these absolute garbage pieces of just utter scams that are identical to the things no one paid any attention to before Bitcoin. Centralized currencies that have the pretense of decentralization due to running some of the code that Bitcoin has, and using a blockchain, but without doing without having something that is genuinely resistant to attack in the way that you can be if you use a blockchain in the right way. But just using a blockchain in and of itself does nothing except afford you a ledger which runs in a really slow and clunky and inefficient way, where all the data is hashed and Merkleized together and doesn't afford you any immutability unless there are a sufficient amount of people all verifying it and a sufficient proof of work requirement to modifying it. Those things are hard and they take a long time to establish, and Bitcoin was very vulnerable to all the attacks that can come with having a low hash rate to its blockchain and not having a lot of people verifying what the miners were doing. It was very vulnerable for years, but no one knew what it was yet, so it flew under the radar. This is part of Bitcoin's immaculate conception that I like to talk about, and it sounds insanely religious to use language like that, but hear me out. Bitcoin could have been attacked and destroyed for a long time, but no one understood the nature of it yet, and no one could do it. And eventually, as the monetary value, the financial incentive for people to provide security through hash rate increases and making it more competitive to mine, as the value crept up and the amount of hashes started rising in tandem with that, the amount of people, the amount of computational resources required to attack Bitcoin and screw with its blockchain increased and increased and increased. And there was a feedback loop that happened where anyone that started getting together the computational resources to attack Bitcoin could use those same resources before they got to the critical level where they could successfully attack Bitcoin. Before they'd get to that level, all they would have is a bunch of purpose-built computers that can only mine Bitcoin that they could use to print money. And that money they would print was the native token of the network they would be planning to attack. So their financial incentives were, either I use this to strengthen the network and make money, and the money I'm making is a reflection of the strength of the network, or I attack the network, make no money, or I maybe make some money for myself, but that money is given to me in a token that is a reflection of the security of the network I'm attacking. So I'm really attacking my own paycheck. I'm paid in Bitcoins, and first off, I don't have enough hash power to successfully attack the network anyway, and second off, in trying to do that, all I'm doing is turning down paycheck after paycheck while burning electricity in the process. That's a game theoretical scenario that should say to anyone that can mine Bitcoin mines Bitcoin, and they throw straight dice every time. They never screw with the network because all they're doing is hurting themselves when they do it. And in the process of acting in their own self-interest, they make it harder for anyone else that wants to attack. And that is a self-perpetuating system where you will see graph after graph of hash rate increasing and making it progressively harder and harder and harder for anyone that wants to perform an attack. And then you have the ecosystem of hundreds of thousands of nodes that verify everything that the miners do. And the two are holding each other to account. Not the miners aren't exactly holding the nodes to account, except for the economic activity of the nodes, which has to go through the miners, the blocks that the miners mine. So you can't make a dishonest transaction in Bitcoin because the miners are the people rely on to order those transactions. And the miners can't produce invalid blocks where they print more Bitcoin for themselves than we expect them to, because then the nodes will reject their blocks and then they just wasted a bunch of electricity. So we have a system where everyone is kept honest, and it's a self-perpetuating system that increases and increases in security as the price increases along with it. And it's self-sustaining, and it bootstrapped itself up from nothing, and it got through a period where it was quite vulnerable. However, if you copy that system and try to create the same ecosystem again, guess what? Everyone knows how blockchains work now, and you don't achieve critical mass from day one. So when you start mining, if you cancelled all of the Bitcoin and all of the cryptocurrencies in existence, but everyone kept the knowledge that they have right now about how these systems work, when you would launch Bitcoin tomorrow, what would happen is everyone would attack the network and destroy it straight away. And not everyone, maybe some people would mine honestly, but the point is the hash rate of the network would be so low that a few supercomputers or motivated state-level attackers could could screw with the blockchain and make the network completely unreliable straight away. And that would mean this network doesn't have any resilience. There's nothing I can rely on here, and the native token is not something I can invest in because it's not even something I'm sure I can really securely own. The transaction in which I might receive it, where someone might send to me some Bitcoin that I bought, might be in a block that gets undone later by a malicious miner who mines an empty block and keeps mining empty blocks just to screw with the network. People would do that because guess what? The blocks they're mining give them Bitcoins, but Bitcoin it's just a fresh network, right? It's just starting. There's no monetary value. So if there's some fresh cryptocurrency that comes out today, I can mine it with my laptop, keep churning out blocks and be an asshole about it and make all of the blocks empty, or I can be even more disruptive. I can let someone mine 12 blocks and let the chain gain a bit of traction and let some economic activity happen, and then dedicate a very powerful graphics card setup to it and outmine that chain suddenly and mine 20 blocks and dump them on the network, and that becomes the new best chain of the chain of longest length. The entire network accepts that, but guess what? All the blocks are empty, and all the economic activity that occurred in the previous blocks, the now orphaned blocks, is now undone and no longer a part of history, and there's no reliability or trust that you can place in the economic history of that blockchain. You can do that, and people do that, and all of the smaller blockchains are attacked relentlessly by people just having fun, and you can't rely on networks like that. Ethereum Classic is a great example. It got 51% attacked earlier in 2020, and you don't want to you can't have people screwing with your hard-earned money like that. You can't afford to have that happen. No one is going to invest millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, and billions of dollars into anything where there's even the remotest chance of people out-mining the honest miners on the network. That means you need an insane hash rate that something like Bitcoin has, that uses an incredible amount of the world's of what is the most fundamental currency in the universe, which is energy. You need more energy than the miners themselves are currently using when they mine Bitcoin to disrupt the network. And that energy requirement can't be faked. And the use of energy is called work. And that's why the process of what Bitcoin's miners do is called proof of work. Because when they produce blocks, they had to have done a certain amount of work to produce those blocks. And the verification of that work is trivial and simple for low resource computers to verify. And that dynamic is why we have small blocks. It's because we need to, using a very, very, very primitive computer, be able to verify that what miners have done is honest. And it takes miners a long time to find solutions to blocks, and it takes us a very, very short amount of time to verify that their solution is valid. But we know that the solution they came up with took a lot of work. And that proof of work is what gives Bitcoin its resilience, because you can't fake the usage of energy in when solving a mathematical problem that's predictably hard to solve, that has no shortcuts and no solution better than trial and error. So this is a long tangent to go off on, but one of the reasons I needed to do it was understanding why shitcoins are shit. I have to, in explaining that, I have to explain what makes Bitcoin so good and so resilient. And understanding that is really difficult. But understand that all of the qualities I've just talked about and why Bitcoin has the qualities it does have is because of the network characteristics and the scale, and not just that, but also the ideology of the community, and the track record and the network effect. All of these things together combine to make something that is conceptually what we call anti-fragile, which means it has a kind of immune system in and of itself, and it gets stronger and more resilient. And Andreas likes to call it, the immune system of a sewer rat, as opposed to like a child raised in a cotton wool environment and all that. It's good to understand it that way, but by contrast, all of the shitcoins that exist, they reintroduce central points of failure, which if Bitcoin had one of those central points of failure, it never would have got anywhere. And as a result, none of these other cryptocurrencies would be given the time of day. But instead, because Bitcoin is so resilient, people, including governments, assume that other cryptocurrencies share that characteristic and they leave them well alone. And also because there's so much money in them, there's quite a lot of suspicious behavior where you assume there's been some lobbying done, particularly with the cozy relationship between the SEC and Ethereum and Vitalik. There's definitely something suspicious going on there. But regardless of that, when it comes down to it, Bitcoin offers us complete freedom from government control. And all they can do annoying things like they do with the internet itself, which is they police the on and off ramps, just like that your ISPs are policed. And when you want to buy and sell Bitcoin, the exchanges that operate legally have to deal with an incredible amount of regulation. But once you're in the Bitcoin highway, you are free to do whatever you want, and there's no one that can ever stop you. All that they can do is monitor what you do. But there are ways around that, and there are ways to increase your privacy, and I encourage everyone to make use of these technologies and to make them normal as quickly as possible so that they cannot be realistically punished. Nonetheless, Bitcoin offers everything when it comes to ideal financial predictability and self-sovereignty and complete personal responsibility. When it comes to the shitcoin networks, and particularly Ethereum, what you walk away from is all of those good qualities, and you replace them with buzzwords and pie in the sky promises and stupid, specious technical claims like, oh, we have blocks every 2 minutes instead of every 10 minutes, and we've got this scripting algorithm, and we've got this. There's all sorts of claims made, but in reality, they are just. Often they're just fraudulent, and other times they are preying on the fact that people don't understand why Bitcoin is what it is. They don't understand the ideology that spawned the technology in the first place, which means they don't understand when it's abandoned. And Ethereum has no cypherpunk ethos at all. It's very happy casting moral judgments. It's very happy using centralized control, and it's very happy. I don't know if I've gone too off topic with this, but I think I should round up and say these two things, Bitcoins and shitcoins, in the word of the US Senate after Meltdown Demi-Roars spoke to them, they summarized, okay, so you're telling us there's Bitcoin and there's shitcoin. These two things are different ends of the ideological universe and the practical universe as well. They don't have any relation to one another, but they are all under the umbrella cryptocurrency. And it's gotten to the point now where if people have within their Twitter handles or their Instagram bios something to do, some sort of rocket emojis with the words blockchain or crypto or anything that is not the word Bitcoin itself, you can be sure that they either don't really understand the space that they're in, or they are making a shitload of money, or potential. Well, no, actually, those are your only two options. It's in Vitalik and every shitcoin creator. It's in the interest of Vitalik and the creator of every shitcoin there is, and every exchange platform, to attack Bitcoin ruthlessly and pump and pump and pump and gaslight about features that Bitcoin doesn't have because it's the MySpace of cryptocurrencies, and go on and on and on about technical things and feature here and like a newer tech here and discredit Bitcoin and even attack it. I mean, Vitalik has attacked Bitcoin on the most, like during the scaling debate and the fork wars, he was there advocating SegWit as a hard fork, which is a really destructive team to be on. And that's part of the reason I have the animosity to the project that I do, because he and the entire Ethereum ecosystem stood to benefit a lot. at Bitcoin's downfall. And as I said in my last video, I was quite worried for a lot of 2017 that Bitcoin was going to collapse. In the end, I was humbled by just how resilient this technology was and how much the community would fight for it. Well, it turns out Bitcoin contains a lot of clever people that have invested a lot of money and aren't about to have that all get flushed down the toilet. So I should have maybe had a little bit more faith, but fear is real, and Bitcoin is often just too good to be true. But nonetheless, every single element of the scaling debate, Vitalik supported the destructive side that tried everything they could to make Bitcoin a centralized version, as Roger Ver even was quoted as saying, I think if making blocks bigger results in Bitcoin becoming PayPal 2.0, then I think that's a risk worth taking. Yeah, he did, because, I can grant Roger the benefit of the doubt and say he didn't understand how bad that would be, but I'm not going to do that with Vitalik. I'm going to say he knew how bad that would be and how ruinous that would be to the ideology of the project. And it didn't happen, but Vitalik pushed every single step of the way, including that congrats on this seriously tweet he sent to Roger when Bitcoin Cash rose thousands of dollars one night, and Roger dumped something like 50,000 Bitcoins and did everything he could to make it look as though the market was saying Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin and Bitcoin is no longer Bitcoin. And he owned the Bitcoin.com website, he owned the RBTC subreddit, he had hundreds of thousands of people liking things and posting things and paid harassment campaigns of core devs, and everything was just, we had so much lined up against us, and we were just simple users of the Bitcoin network. In the end, as I pointed out in my last video, the Bitcoin proper won, and Bitcoin Cash these days is almost 1% of what Bitcoin's worth. It's falling every week, and it's quite glorious to watch. But Vitalik and the Ethereum community spitefully tried everything they could. I didn't finish my point earlier when I said exchange operators and shitcoin creators and shitcoin communities all want to see Bitcoin knocked off the top, because they all automatically assume that it's especially ETH heads or Ethereum users, they automatically assume that they will be king of crypto if Bitcoin gets knocked off the top. What the ingratitude of this is quite annoying, because they only exist. They are all moons to Bitcoin's sun. They are all not emitting any light themselves. They are just reflecting the light that comes off this orange circle. And they wouldn't last 5 minutes without Bitcoin being there to pull all this monetary energy into the space that spills over into the altcoins with people that are sucked in but don't understand why Bitcoin has unique characteristics that make it worth investment and why nothing else does. All of it is just spillover and accidental and just complete scammery and theft on part of these shitcoin creators. But exchanges, they also benefit from pumping shitcoins and attacking Bitcoin and finding. Brian Armstrong from Coinbase has made a career out of refusing to mention the word Bitcoin at any crypto conference. He's on record as saying, I'm not going to mention the word Bitcoin. And I think he went for 2 full years without ever saying it. He would only ever say cryptocurrency. And this stands to reason, because he runs a shitcoin casino. And the more you trade between Bitcoin and some shitcoin, the more he makes in commission. He's not interested in saying, there's one good currency out there, buy it, don't trade it ever, just hold it, because you will regret trading it if you ever lose any. And you cannot predict the way markets are going to go, except in a macro sense, where you know that if you buy Bitcoin today and you wait long enough, it's going to be worth a lot more. That's it, so don't trade. That's not his business model. His business model is, shitcoin gets created, shitcoin creator comes to me behind closed doors and says, hey, I'll give you a bunch of money if you list this on your exchange and lend us the legitimacy of your name. He says, sure, give me however many of this shitcoin. Or he does it in a way to distance himself sufficiently so he's not directly going to go to jail for this. But this is insider trading in the usual traditional financial world, and it's perfectly acceptable and pretty legal within the crypto space, and it happens every single time. Shitcoin's created, insiders gather a lot for themselves, gets listed on a credible exchange. That exchange, as a result of that happening, the market price pumps and pumps and pumps. The initial creators sell out on the top on all the unsuspecting noobs, make a shit ton of money for themselves, walk away, abandon the scam. The project's left with no development whatsoever. All of the hot air and rhetoric and all the attacks and pot shots they threw at Bitcoin are forgotten about. A bunch of noobs lost money, have less Bitcoin than they started with, have learnt their lesson. They're back to becoming Bitcoin maximalists. And they've learnt their lesson, hopefully, or they get burnt again until life gets done teaching them the lesson, or they finally learn the lesson life keeps teaching them. That's the crypto ecosystem. It's attack Bitcoin, make people buy shitcoins, earn as much as you can in commission if you're an exchange, earn as much as you can if you're an unscrupulous developer that wants to make a shitcoin, and make your profit that way, basically. And every single one of us knows that the people that are experienced in this space just want more Bitcoin. And the people that are experienced and unscrupulous make these scams in an effort to separate you from your Bitcoin. And they do so because there's a never-ending trail of wide-eyed people that believe everything they've read, that blockchain is going to change everything, and blockchain is going to make us able to trace the origins of fruit and veg, and it's going to make medicine work properly, and we're going to be able to vote using a blockchain, and all of these things that blockchain does nothing to help. Using blockchain as a pronoun, for God's sake, all of these things are insane. All a blockchain does is Merkelize and hash data. That's all it does. And I can show you a trivial example of that. It doesn't mean that the data in the blockchain can't be changed. That only happens if other characteristics exist within the network, and those things are not automatic or default. In fact, they basically can't ever happen again. They happened with Bitcoin because Bitcoin flew under the radar before anyone knew what this thing was, and it gained a sufficient size before anyone knew how to attack it, to the point where anyone that would attack it would just strengthen it. And that anti-fragility has created something that means you're safe with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's blockchain actually provides resilience and censorship resilience and immutability. And there's a reason you can upload your marriage vows into Bitcoin's blockchain and cry while you're doing it, because you know that will exist till the end of time. But you don't do that in Ethereum's blockchain, because Ethereum's blockchain is changed when Vitalik feels like changing it, or Vitalik and a couple of his friends. Those are not systems you want to trust. If you send $20,000 using your bank account to someone who your bank decides later you shouldn't have sent to, they will reverse that transaction, or the bank that it went to will reject it. And there's always the risk of that, because your money isn't actually under your control. It's under the control of the network you're using. That's the same as Ethereum. But I hope I haven't rambled on too long in this video. And I don't like to talk in this negative fashion. It's really not what brought me to the space. It's just sad to see people get taken away from this path of self-sovereignty and financial freedom, and distracted by these very intelligent but completely unscrupulous con artists, the king of whom is Vitalik Buterin. He invented the term Bitcoin maximalist as a pejorative term for people that love and protect Bitcoin as a technology and a network to the death. And those people are what gave us this system that you can finally rely on for financial self-sovereignty and not have to entrust any third party for the first time in human history. We have something that gold is a rough approximation of. We have the perfect abstraction of it now. We finally have it. We have money that cannot be debased. They're never going to dig into a pit in East Russia and suddenly find a whole load of new Bitcoin, and every Bitcoin holder goes, shit, now my Bitcoin's worth less. That's never going to happen. Not in this universe. Not with game theory and humans being motivated the way they are. Not with a genius appeal to selfishness. Not with an insane energetic requirement required to change any of the history of what's occurred within the Bitcoin network. None of this is possible, and your all of this amazing, all of those amazing characteristics are things that you just will never see again in any other context. And there are maybe 3 or 4 events as significant as the creation and the existence of Bitcoin in humans' history, and it is the opening scene from, as this is not my take personally, I've seen many people make this take, but the opening scene from 2001 Space Odyssey, where it where it shows an ape using a bone as a hammer for the first time, and it heralds a new period of evolution and a jump in what becomes possible for a species. There are few things as significant as this, and there's the invention of the printing press, and maybe the invention of the internet itself, which is significant, but the first significant thing to happen with the internet is the creation of Bitcoin, and it dwarfs everything else. And I find that there's 2 steps forward in geopolitics, and those are the invention of the printing press, where suddenly anyone could print anything. And for me, that's no different really than the creation of the internet. And that was a huge change in everything. But really, what I mean to say, I find far more relevant than even that is the separation of church and state. And that is the essential growing up of a civilization. And it allows the freedom of people to believe what they want to believe. And the separation of religious dogma from politics itself. And that was an essential development. And you would never go back to life before that. You never wanted the mixture of religion and state, because there was just no end of corruption in societies set up that way. And what Bitcoin does is it's the next step. It separates money from the state. And rather than take money out of politics, which is an old trope, it's take politics out of money. There is no political influence in Bitcoin whatsoever. No one can say, okay, let's make more Bitcoins this month, or let's make less, or let's move from the richest people to the poorest people. There are too many men. Let's redistribute to some women. There's none of this identity politics or any other kind of politics that leaks into the system. It's just math, and it's just game theory, and it's completely immutable, and it's not something that can ever be changed. And it's truly wonderful, and it's a system that you can rely on to look the same way 100 years from now. So none of those properties exist in any of the shitcoins you see on CoinMarketCap today. And I really, really hope that you're responsible with your money and that you don't throw it at these projects. And I've had so many people that I've sat down with and explained Bitcoin, and they just automatically translate all these properties onto these other projects which don't have any of the same characteristics. And to return to the pejorative term Bitcoin maximalist that's used to talk about people like me in a negative sense, that was coined by the video stopped recording, sorry. I'm very near the end of this talk anyway. What I'd like to say is that we flipped on its head the term Bitcoin maximalist and wear that as a badge of honor, and we use that I'm proud to say that I don't endorse any of these scams that take advantage of people's naivety in the space. I don't for a second think that any creator of any cryptocurrency or anyone using blockchain in a way that financially benefits them is doing so in a way that creates any of the benefits they proclaim it to have. And I wholeheartedly reject these people, and I consider them morally repugnant. And I've stopped recommending devices that will offer 10,000 shitcoins as a way integration with all this crap technology as a means of getting you to buy them. So I much prefer cold cards as hard wallets when I used to recommend Trezors and Ledgers. Trezor are spending all their time incorporating every single shitcoin. They've incorporated every crap version of Bitcoin too. I don't know why they do this. It's a waste of their energy. And I would gladly recommend anyone that that focuses on Bitcoin and helps to build that ecosystem. And I really like to shout out the companies that do this. CoinFloor in the UK is an exchange who I've had my ups and downs with, but at the beginning of 2020, they loudly and proudly said, we are not supporting Ethereum anymore, we are not supporting Bitcoin Cash, we are just supporting Bitcoin now. And they have a very proud Bitcoin only mentality, and I'm very full of praise for them for doing that. Endorsing these scams is not acceptable, and it's 2020 now, and it's been years of shitcoin and scam and scam and scam, and all of this stuff has been an ugly consequence of the creation of Bitcoin, and it's been an awful thing to witness. People like Craig Wright who've come along pretending to be Satoshi Nakamoto, and fake versions of Bitcoin that try to confuse people, and the website itself, bitcoin.com, pushing you to buy Bcash instead of Bitcoin. All of these things are really awful, and a lot of people have lost a lot of money, and a lot of people have been really badly misled. And it's due to the wild west nature of crypto. But you'll never hear someone like me talk about crypto or shitcoins or anything like that, because it's boring to me, and it's not just boring, but I don't want to legitimize these scams, and they are all scams, and I'm very tired of people writing me off as narrow-minded, or this is not a result of a narrow mind having this perspective. It's the result of having a nuanced perspective on what makes Bitcoin actually resistant to government control. If your technology doesn't resist that stuff, there's no need for it to be in this space whatsoever. You can run a smart contract or something that looks like a smart contract on an Amazon web server today, and the government is not going to shut you down if you do any of the things that the Ethereum network does, because none of it's controversial. It's all just casino bullshit, and it's so uninspiring, and it's such a bastardization of what the function of a blockchain was when Bitcoin was created. It's a complete perversion and a distraction, because this is truly citizens taking power back from the state in the most significant manner since it might be the most significant shift in power dynamics in the history of our species, which is us taking back it's money made by us for us, and politicians have no influence over it whatsoever. And that is such a significant shift in our species evolution that bullshit like Litecoin and Ethereum and fake versions of Bitcoin do not deserve to exist in the same sentence, let alone under the same umbrella term of cryptocurrency, because they don't have any function whatsoever other than to stick their vacuum cleaner hose into your pocket. And my animosity to it, and what is characterized as narrow-mindedness or a Luddite mentality within the cryptocurrency world, is a mischaracterization of what's going on here. And I'm very sorry for what is essentially, I don't know how long this video is, but like maybe an hour and a half of ranting and moaning and dismissal, and me casting aspersions on entire ecosystems and people's motivations within those systems. But as I said, it's not something I enjoy doing, and it's not something I find rewarding. It's a very thankless task. But if watching this video has meant one person that was about to throw a bunch of money into Ethereum goes, at least I don't understand this, why am I buying this, then I'm happy. I would hope for it to be more effective than that, but I'll make do with that. Thank you very much.